started. 3, 2, 1. And welcome to Bid Nerds. You are here for a Monday morning edition of the Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnick. Nerd out with us about the most interesting cars on Cars and Bids and bring a trailer every day with me, John Polnick. I'm your main bid nerd, along with my partner, Michael Deeb. Look at that. We're going to put his lower third up there instead of mine so you know who he is. He's coming to you live from San Francisco, California, whereas I am right here in beautiful downtown Las Vegas. We're right on the Las Vegas Strip, and this happens every day during the 9 o'clock hour unless a computer crashes or something. So we started a little late, so thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this a little later and we're not live, then hey, it doesn't matter. Welcome, Michael Deeb. How's your weekend, buddy?
Oh, pretty good, JP. It was pouring rain here. Didn't leave the house.
Nice. Well, that's a good time. So I almost bought a car this weekend. How about you?
No, I stayed out of that realm. I am trying to get back into the good graces of my wife right before Christmas. I think that's the strategy. So no cars for me. What did you almost buy?
Well, so I wanted to bring it up just because it's like I learned, it seems I've been around cars for years. You and I have been doing this for a gajillion years. We're not car dealers, but we love cars and we buy them every now and then. We fix them. Who knows? Whatever. So I went and looked at a 2002 996 C4 cab manual with decent miles, like 85,000 miles, and the price was unbelievably good. It's one of these like almost too good to be true type deals. Went out and looked at the car, and everything seemed a little weird. Things lined up, but it still seemed weird. And when I looked at the Carfax, I had an interesting moment, something I've never seen before. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like this. Normally, when you run a Carfax on a car, at the top, it'll tell you in a big yellow, bold, like street sign almost, that triangle thing. It'll say, accident or former theft recovery or something awful, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at this Carfax and my wife is looking at it over my shoulder on the computer screen. She goes, "This car's been stolen." I'm like, "What? No, it's not. Hasn't." And I go to the top and there's nothing. It said 3 owners, no accidents. I'm going, "Oh, okay, everything's looking okay, I guess." She's like, "No, look." And we scroll down. Sure enough, back in like 2011, car reported stolen, and like literally the next day, car recovered. So,
dude, where's my car?
Yeah, right. It's like, did the grandson take the car for a joyride? Did some crackhead jump in it at the valet? I mean, what happened? And why isn't that on the Carfax? Yeah, any ideas? Any speculation? I have an idea.
I think the guy went country line dancing, drank too many Jack and Cokes, took a cab home, woke up the next morning, reported his car stolen, and then, his wife was like, "No, you left it at, Crazy Bill's Saloon." And then he had to tell the police he found his car.
Well, I think we could come up with a bunch of theories as to, how the car was stolen, but my real question is, why is it not showing up on the Carfax? Why is it a line item and not a bold thing at the top?
Yeah, that's really weird. You and I talked about this over the weekend, and I have my theory with regards to just how gray a rule car theft is, at least with the California DMV. There's something felonious, which is grand theft auto, and there's something that it's a misdemeanor, which has to do with joyriding, and the intention, however you prove it, to be able to prove that you were bringing the car back. And so maybe that's what's going on yours, but who knows? That's a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that it's something to do with the fact that it was never reported to an insurance company. I think that, and that's something I never considered and is a little bit scary when you think about it. Because, I mean, even a mild theft, even like the valet or somebody stealing your car at the valet and you finding it, the cops finding it 6 hours later, in a Porsche, do you really want that? I mean, that's something that I would be like, really like, I don't want to buy this car. So the fact that I'm guessing the way Carfax works is if the car is stolen, and the owner says, "All right, I want to be paid out because the car has been stolen," then they recover the car, but the owner's already been paid out, so the car goes to an insurance auction and someone buys it as a theft recovery. That's how the brand happens on the title, and that's how Carfax adds the former theft. But just being stolen and recovered and not paid out by the insurance company is probably the discrepancy there, and is something to really make sure that when you're considering buying a car and you're looking at a Carfax or what's the other one, the auto check or whatever.
Auto check. Yeah.
Read every line. Have
Yeah.
someone else do it over your shoulder. I mean, I missed it. My wife
Wow.
caught it, and so yeah, I did not buy the car. Guy was very weird.
Still sounds like you dodged a bullet, so I'm glad that happened.
Hey, Michael, I don't know if it's possible, but if you could turn up your mic or turn up your volume on your system, you are coming in very low.
There we go.
Apologize to the audience out there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, so we just thought we'd bring that up, and let's get to the cars. We've got a lot of amazing cars this week. Last week, our little competition was kind of a horse. It was actually, Deeb, you were destroying me for the first 3 quarters of the game last week. I was hopelessly behind, and somehow had a couple of Hail Marys and conversions and offside kicks, and I wound up getting barely pulled it ahead at the end.
You pulled it out at the end. You got 4 on Friday, including a Yachty on the GT3 RS, that 9 orange car. So for the week, it was 12-12. I got 1 Yahtzee. You got 1 Yahtzee. You got the pick of the week was the car we did with Dwayne Wick.
Yep.
And then during the week, we had 1 car that we did a draw on, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that you just hold that mic as close to your face as possible because your audio is very low today. It might be an internet connection. Hey everyone, it's the internet, and that's what everyone is on these days. It's Monday, and everyone's back to work, and back to work means turning on the internet these days.
That's right.
So yeah, it was quite the competition last week, but it was a good time. And let's get to this week's cars. What's the first car you want to talk about and make some predictions?
All right, so let's go over to Cars and Bids, and we're going to look at a 2012 Mercedes-Benz E63 Wagon. This is the AMG wagon, which Mercedes dealers did not ever order for inventory. This car has always been available at your Mercedes dealership, but it's an order basis. In other words, your local dealer will be granted an allocation if you go ahead and put down a deposit and order the car. So these are almost all of these are bespoke for particular customers, which makes them kind of neat. And back when the 997 GT3s were being ordered, our good friend, Bid Nerd's good friend, Jeff Harley, was working at the Porsche dealership. And he told me that almost every guy that bought a GT3 or a GT3 RS drove an E63 wagon as their daily driver, which I thought was really cool. That's a Northern California thing. So this was the daily driver of the GT3 RS crowd. This car is offered out of Oakland, California. It's got 106,000 miles. It's a really cool car called Indium Gray, which is kind of like a tobacco or like a cigar color. JP, it's a really beautiful car. This particular drivetrain is a 5.5 liter twin turbocharged V8 that makes about 520 horsepower and around 520 pound-foot of torque. So despite these things being heavy, they're still fast. 7-speed automatic, so the gearbox isn't great. They are still a bit heavy, but these cars go, and they hold their value pretty well. So this car is out of Oakland, California, is at $28,000 on 9 bids.
Well, this car just looks to me like it seems like it's a lowered G-Wagon or something. I mean, it's just the way it sits, and with all that power and weight. I've never driven one of these. I've seen them on the road. That's hilarious that GT3 drivers drive these as a daily, and that totally makes sense.
Pretty funny.
How much more do these usually bring than their sedan counterparts? From a percentage-wise, would you guess?
I would say probably 20% premium, maybe a little more, 20 to 30, but probably 20 on average. Yeah.
Okay. So right now we're at 9 bids. We've got about a little over 2 hours to go. There's a lot of comments on this car on Cars and Bids. This is kind of a surprise that this is getting this much of attention. Do you have a bid for this? You ready for a bid?
I do. Yeah. So at $28,000, it still has 110,000 miles. Or 106,000 miles. So I'm going to go. It just breaks 30. I'm going to say 31,500.
$31,500. All right. I mean, that's not too far to go in 2000. I mean, in just a couple of hours.
Right.
So I don't know this car as well as you. I mean, I've certainly knew that it exists, but it didn't really make my radar. And I'm gonna just use a little of your enthusiasm and go the over and say 32.5, and say,
All
hey,
right.
somebody wants this thing because they got to put all their track stuff in the back, and they're gonna have their wife drive to the track and bring all their stuff.
All right. So let's jump over to Bring a Trailer. And JP, I am happy to introduce what I think might be the coolest, or at least certainly the most unusual car we've done to date. This is a 1965 Ford Cortina GT with a complete S2000 FC20 motor, AP1 drivetrain swap. So this car is a 6-speed manual. It has an inline 4 that revs to 9,000 RPM out of our favorite Honda S2000. Limited slip differential. It even has the digital gauges across the dash. The Ford Cortina is a car that was built as a joint venture with Lotus. So back in the late 60s, Ford was making a Grand Prix motor, and Lotus was one of the more successful Formula One race teams, and they were using the Ford DFV motor. And I believe that the Ford Cortina, Lotus Cortina, which essentially look like the same car, is a collaboration that was derived out of that relationship from racing. These cars are pretty rare in the United States. This particular one is even right-hand drive, which makes it all the more unusual. And then some guy out of Oakland, California has done this like just total Frankenstein swap with the Honda S2000 drivetrain, and this car absolutely rips. I would say, JP, this car probably weighs under 2,000 pounds or right around 2,000 pounds, even with the Honda drivetrain in it. And at 240 horsepower, this thing probably moves. The in-car video is pretty cool. The big concession here is that you have to convert to right-hand drive. So on just 18 bids, which is actually pretty good action, this car is still sitting only at $17,250. Have you ever heard of the Lotus Cortina or the Ford Cortina?
I absolutely have. I've never driven one, but I definitely remember them from back in the day when they were still kind of floating around in the 80s, when this was a really kind of cheap, I mean, it was a fun little kind of car that nobody really appreciated. But I've certainly never seen one with an S2000 engine. Wow. I just, as much fun as this car probably is to drive, does this help the value, or does this just kill it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a question to you. I mean,
yeah. It's really interesting. You could pick up a Ford Cortina for $10,000, a really nice one for maybe 15 to 25. Lotus Cortinas, on the other hand, with the Cosworth motors, which have a little bit hotter motor, about 160 horsepower from a 1.6 liter twin cam, they're $50,000 to $100,000 cars. So the fact that it's in a Ford Cortina donor, I would think should help the value of this car. I expect there to be some late action, and this car bring maybe close to some real money. But if this were a Lotus Cortina as a donor, the message board would be lit up with, how could you do that to a Lotus? That kind of thing.
I can't think of a better car to take on the Targa Baja or one of those kind of, the DWA rallies, the Coastal Range rallies or something. I suspect that it is in the Bay Area. This car probably has been on one of the Coastal Range rallies. I'm not reckoning that. Yeah, there are.
There are photos that prove it. Yeah.
Yep,
so totally.
there it is. So this car is a driver's car with that powertrain setup. Whoever buys this thing is going to have a good time with it. They're not going to just put it in a garage and let it sit. Somebody's going to have fun. What the hell is your bid on this car?
Yeah. Okay. So importantly, I would note that the Ford and Lotus Cortinas are front-wheel drives, and this car with the S2000 has been converted to rear-wheel drive, which is really cool. And again, what probably make if you've owned a Cortina, this one will drive totally different. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So that being said, This car seems to be struggling. I would think that with all the stuff that's in there, this car should bring over 30 grand, although it just doesn't look like it's getting the action unless it gets a late surge. So conservatively this morning, close to Christmas, I'm going to say $24,000 out of Oakland, California.
Wow. This car is, really awesome. Tons of fun. The whole rear wheel drive thing has got to be a trip. The thing that I think really scares me is the right hand drive. I think that's going to hurt this car.
Right.
I think it's going to mean it's going to barely break 20. If it even does, I'm going to say 21. Such a neat car, but, it's driving right hand drive cars is a good time, but it's not something I want to do regularly. And honestly, it's not something I want to do on a rally run. I mean, that would just bug the crap out of me, but that's just me. All right, there it is. We got some numbers in there. Interesting car.
Yeah, I agree with you. Imagine being on the crest in a right-hand drive. You notice that like there's no guardrail and the thing, and then all of a sudden you're disoriented because you're in a right-hand drive. That just wouldn't be a fun car. I agree.
Yeah, I think it would be a distraction in a performance situation. But hey, I don't know. I'm a crappy driver, so what are you going to do? Let's move on to the next car. All right, what do we got? That was very interesting.
Okay.
Hey, actually, before we go to the next car, I will mention that I did a little. When we're kind of setting up for the week or whatever, I do a little data. I was surprised how many people have searched for Ford Cortinas. There is a lot of Ford Cortina content when you start looking at the search data and a much more popular car than I anticipated. Anyway, sorry, moving on. Let's go on.
Yeah, no, that's cool, useless trivia. I like it. All right. Excuse me. So we're going to jump over. Actually, we're going to stay on Bring a Trailer and jump over to a 2008 Mercedes-Benz CLK AMG Black Series. They only made this car for 1 year. They made about 500 of them worldwide. I'm not sure how many came to the U.S., but knowing that Mercedes-Benz is a big thing, a big market, the United States is a big market for Mercedes-Benz, I would imagine they had to have brought at least 200 of these things in. You rarely see them, but they are a pretty good driver's car. They have kind of a clunky 7-speed automatic transmission that has AMG's speed shift, but that is a misnomer because it's not fast at all. The big thing you're buying here is a 6.2 liter, normally aspirated, just about 7,000 RPM, 500 horsepower V8. This is just one of the coolest engines Mercedes has made in the modern era. Things sounds like a NASCAR or like an offshore power boat. It's absolutely awesome. They only came in 4 colors, JP: black, silver, red, and white. And I would say the red and the white are really, really rare. So to find one like this one out of San Rafael, California, with just 9,500 miles, I'm curious to know where this car is going to land. And I thought it'd be fun for us to look at. 19-inch machined wheels, really thick bolstered seats, and a super thick rim steering wheel. The Black Series added really cool, like a limited slip differential, super stiff suspension, and wide fender flares to be derivative of their DTM efforts in era. So one of the cool cars that I never owned but always wanted one, the AMG CLK Black Series. These cars sticker JP for $138,000. So does a 9,000 mile example come close to sticker?
I don't think it comes close to sticker, but I think it does way better than most Mercedes when it comes to depreciation. I love these cars. Driving these is so much fun. Last week we talked about the GTR Mercedes and how similar to like a GT3 one of those is to drive. Now, this car is certainly not a GT3 to drive, but again, it's one of those Mercedes that you get in and surprises you with the way it feels from a performance point of view. When you get into a Mercedes, usually you're looking for luxury and smooth and power, but this car feels like a sports car when you sit in those big bolstered seats. One of the things I love about the CLK in general, not just the black, but I love that there's no B-pillar. I love that you can roll the front and rear windows down and have this big open area. Almost feels like a convertible to a point. But those seats alone, man, oh my gosh. Yeah, I just love, there's no B-pillar there. So when you roll the windows down, this is all open. And that just is a really kind of fun experience when you're driving around. just a monster of a car. Those big fender flares. It's the muscle car that America never made. This is what a Mustang should be, frankly.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Yeah, a Shelby. This should be a Shelby
Yep.
GT500.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love these. One of the few cars that I would consider owning other than a Porsche. How far do we got to go? When does this thing end? What's your bid?
It's coming up pretty quick. It's an hour left, John.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's at $85,000 on 12 bids. It's got some action. It's a rare color. I would say most enthusiasts that are on BAD are familiar with this car. So it's really interesting to me. I think one of two things is going to happen. Either you think it's going to peter out in the mid 90s, like $94,000 or $96,000, or there's going to be a late surge and the thing is going to climb up into the teens. And because I can't decide which one it's going to do, I'm going to just toe the line in the middle and say $108,000. And it sells at that price. Because for 85 grand, John, you can find one with 20 or 30,000 miles all day. There's plenty of them out there for the price it's at now. But this one is super low miles and a rare color.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is something for a collector, and gosh, I would wait again as usual. I'd way rather drive them. I'd rather find one with a few more miles. I've seen them in the 70s, frankly, with a few miles on them. Yes, it's a more rare color, so I think that helps it. I don't think it breaks 100, or if it would you say 108?
Yep.
I'm gonna go 101. Yeah. Just to be,
okay.
Hey, it's on the West Coast and you're near the 101. Maybe that road that we just saw the video of was the 101. So I'm going to go $101,000.
All right. Very good. Okay, cool. So let's stay on Bring a Trailer for one more lot, and we're going to take a look out of Grimsby, Ontario, Canada. This is an interesting lot because it's a 1987 Porsche 928 S4. This is a manual car, so it's the one you want. This car actually was sold new out of New York, and then in 2014, somebody bought it and brought it across the border to Canada. And so this car, while it's still sitting in Canada, is still a U.S.-derived car, which should make it all the more easy to bring it back into this country, I would think. That being said, we are really heading into winter as we speak, and it's not going to get any easier or any less expensive to do so. The car has 73,000 miles on it. It has $20,000 in recent service over the last handful of years. And in 87, when Porsche, the 928 model, moved to the S4, this car grew to 5 liters with a 32-valve motor that makes over 310 horsepower. So these are really good driver's cars, and it looks to be in very nice condition, save for what I would call ugly Carrera wheels. These wheels don't belong in the car.
Those are hideous.
And other than the fact that it's in Canada, I really like the car. This would be a fun car to drive. 928s are historically, and I mean all across the board, they are high maintenance cars. I do like that this one has been driven and that this one has some miles on it. I think that helps, but I still think if you buy one of these, it's maintenance suicide, and that these cars will need constant attention, and by attention I mean money. That being said, I love the model, and one day I'm going to fall on a sword and buy one of these things. But I haven't yet. Have you owned a 928, John?
I have not. I've never owned one, and I sure want to, just like you. And this is the one I'd want to get. The S4 is the one. Luckily, those wheels are easy to remedy. To put some period correct something on there. Yeah, those Boxster wheels are just. I mean, this owner really needs to be punished for that. And unfortunately, I think the owner will be punished because this car. We have seen Canadian cars languish and not bring the money that they should because of crossing the border. Now, it is an 87 car, so it's over 25 years, so that reduces the restrictions of bringing the car back into America significantly, so that should help, but still, it's gonna be a problem. Boy, black on black 928, this is so much fun. Every Porsche mechanic I know curses these. You are going to put a Porsche Tech's kid through college if you buy one of these.
Totally.
It's just so yes, it is a great car to have in your collection of Porsches, but to be your only Porsche, not so much. Where's the bid at right now, and what do you think it's going to do?
Yeah, that's an interesting take. That if this was your only Porsche, that'd be a problem. You'd miss a lot of fun events because
Yeah.
every Sunday you'd go to get your car and it wouldn't start.
Yeah.
So this car is at $22,000 on 9 bids. And there's still 4.5 hours left in the auction, but I don't think the time matters. I think the fact that it's in Canada
Yep.
is the problem here. If this car were in the United States on a lower 48 title, I would say that this car would be probably a 40 to 50,000, let's say $45,000 car,
Yeah.
triple black and being an S4 and a manual.
Yep.
That being said, the fact that it's in Canada, this car ain't going to break 30 grand. So I'm going to say, John, $26,000.
Dang you.
Yeah.
Dang you. That was my number. So do I just go right over you or do I go underneath you on this one?
Yeah.
I'll say it creeps up to 27 just for giggles. I could see it just languishing and only bringing another $1,000 more than it is because everyone knows that they ain't going to get it. I don't know if there's a reserve on this car. My guess is the reserve is well over 30. No way. Not a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe if you didn't put the stupid boxer wheels on there. Maybe.
I know. And he calls them. The problem is he doesn't even know they're Boxster wheels. In the ad, it says 17-inch Carrera wheels, and those are not Carrera wheels.
Come on, dude. Yeah. Come on, man.
So true. Yeah.
All right. Well, beautiful car. Love to own it. Not gonna. Good luck, fella. Moving on. Let's get to the last car of the day.
All right. So we're gonna jump back over to cars and bids, and what in the fuck is this thing?
Oh, so look at you dropping F-bombs. Come on, man. This is a family channel.
A 1991 Ford Probe GT. What marketing team approved that model designation? Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
Oh, Lord. Okay,
one that absolutely knew and deliberately named it that because they knew that the market was for women. That is not a joke. They focus group that name in a big way. That's when focus groups really became part of marketing in the early 90s with American cars. Yikes. Let's hear the take on this one.
They should have focus grouped that lower grill. Oh, my God, that is awful. Okay, so we're looking at JP out of High Point, North Carolina. We are looking at a 1991 Ford Probe GT with a 5-speed manual. No reserve auction. The car does have 134,500, and it appears to be an unmodified example, meaning all these weird bolt-on spoilers came from Ford. My cousin Bella in Sacramento used to own this exact car, white with red GT. And I will admit that in the late 80s, when I got out of school in the early 90s, the counterpart, the shared platform with this is a Mazda 626 GT. These are front-wheel drive, 2.2-liter turbocharged manual transmission cars. You could get them with an automatic. And Ford and Mazda were in cahoots back in that era, and they shared the platform, and they each made basically the same car with very different bodywork, but mechanically the cars shared all the same parts. So the 626 GT, the MX-6 GT, I thought was easy on the eyes, and I did want one of those cars because it seemed like it might be affordable. But alas, that was never a car I owned. So there you go, out of North Carolina, a shitbox.
So that Mazda, did they make one? I thought the Mazda platform was shared with the next generation Probe. Did it go back this far?
It did. So from 87 to 89 to 97, these cars were the same. So this is probably the same as a 626, and then the next Ford shared it with the MX-6 GT. So
the second generation Probe was not a horrible looking car. Unlike the first generation, which we're looking at here. What a hideous pile. I had a girlfriend that had one of these. Hers was not a turbo. It was just a regular one. And it was a manual, which was good. But it was front-wheel drive and just, I mean, it really felt like driving a Mercury Topaz with a hatchback.
Totally.
It was just garbage. Relatively reliable for its time, but just not something that you really wanted to spend any time in.
Yeah, it was reliable for a Ford because everything mechanical was Japanese on it. That's why.
Yeah, that's true, right? That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it does have that Radwood cachet. It does have
Oh,
those.
totally.
I
Totally.
mean, especially with white over red, and like you said, all the crazy bodywork and stuff. If
Yeah.
this car can be had for a price that's not ridiculous, this can be a lot of fun at a Radwood of the future, or some kind of,
That
or any really car show where cool stuff is appreciated, or interesting
that
rare stuff is appreciated.
that's a great segue, John, because this car is already at $6,500, which I consider to be an outrageously high number for this
Yeah.
car. Only 10 bids, but at 6,500, holy hell, I would book this car at $250, and that's if it had a full tank of gas.
I think it's all because of its Radwood cachet and because it's the top of the line model with all the whiz bang stuff. If this were just a regular Ford Probe GT without the turbo and without the ground effects and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I'm with you. But this one has the cachet. I mean, 134,000 miles. I hope you're not going to try to drive it to the West Coast from North Carolina.
Oh,
I
no.
would not trust that turbo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
about a half-
unmodified, too.
Yeah, about a half hour to go. $6,500 is where it's sitting at right now. Like you said, that's more money than I would have thought it would have gone for at all.
Right.
10 bids,
Yep.
lots of comments. Where do you think this thing lands?
$6,899 is my
You
bid.
think it's just going to be you're done?
It's
you think it's gonna
already too much money. That's the guy who's at the high bid right now is in big trouble. He might own this damn thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And there haven't been any bids in a day. The guy, the
No.
$6,500 guy, bid on it yesterday, and no one has touched this thing this morning. So your
I'm
bid was
hoping-
what? 6,800?
6,800, and I'm hoping because you picked it, you like it, and you're going to say 10 grand, and I'm trying to bid the under.
Yeah, no, God, with no bid since yesterday, that's nuts. Normally I would have said $300 more. I mean, come on, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go nuts and bid the under. $200 more, $6,700, and it's probably gonna go nuts now because of bid nerds. Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, this is." Yeah, I mean, it could. Maybe a bunch of people
cheeky
come at the
bastard.
last minute. Yeah, just the benefit of bidding last. Sometimes
cheeky bastard.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
man.
gonna get
All right.
spanked today. I think I'm gonna lose out on all my bids. Well, there it is. I mean, this is exactly what we do every day in the 9 o'clock hour. We nerd out about the most interesting cars on Cars and Bids and bring a trailer. We also bring our wannabe expert advice to you, letting you know how much we think these cars will be bid to, and our predictions are never, ever right. Actually, I should say every now and then we get one right. But it's pretty dang rare. This is something we want you guys to join us every day when you're looking at the auctions and you're going, hey, what's coming up on the auctions today? Join us and nerd out a little bit about the cars that we think are the most interesting, and let us know which cars you think are most interesting, because we'll talk about those cars instead of the ones we pick. Let us know what cars you want us to talk about on future auctions coming up on Cars and Bids, and bring a trailer and some of the other auction sites as well. We'd love to hear your predictions or what you think of ours. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. We're a brand new channel, so we really need your help to get the word out, and we appreciate you being here and watching. Bid Nerds, Michael Deeb, anything to say before we sign out for a Monday?
Yeah, I got so distracted with my microphone, I forgot to give a shout out to Jeff Harley. He had sent me the Ford Cortina. I had already picked it, but he had sent this to us last week and was wondering if we had noticed it. So, Jeff Harley, thanks for recommending the Ford Cortina with the S2000 drivetrain. Thank you, JP.
You should go drive that car, Michael Deeb, since it's in your neck of the woods.
Man.
I'd love to hear what that thing's like, a rear-wheel drive Cortina.
I'll wind up buying it, and my wife will kill me. So no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, she's already got a hit out on you. So really, what's the difference? It's just you're living on borrowed time, buddy. You and me both. All right, guys, join us tomorrow for Bid Nerds during the 9 o'clock hour on Facebook and then on YouTube. See you guys tomorrow.